Welcome back to another podcast. Today, I'm excited to have Christy Roman on the show. Christy and I go way back. I think we started seeing each other at digital dealer conventions. I was working in-house at the dealership and she was doing presentations. And as I went to see and hear other people talk about the things, there was just this sense that Christy knew what she was talking about. And she kind of had a unique command on the conversation, if not the audience. You remember those days, Christy?
I do remember those days, and I think I used to end a lot of those sessions if they were before happy hour with "Let's go get a glass of wine."
Yeah, because you'd poured out all the energy into the deep dives you did. I seriously, like to me, there were a couple of must see TV kind of people that presented. You were one of them. Another was Kevin Fry. Joe Webb was a third, to give you an example. Just the people that were in the operational side of it. And I mean, at one point you did work in a dealership, if I'm correct.
No,
No.
I've been in advertising my entire career pretty much.
Okay. So are you from Orlando area, Florida area?
No, I'm originally outside Chicago. I grew up about an hour outside of Chicago, and then I ended up in Florida. I did the college program with Disney. So,
Well,
yeah.
whoever did these show notes is fired. That's clear. So we'll get that fixed for the next guest. That's myself. So I'm on the hook with that. So I've got misinformation, bad information. You tell your story. You tell you.
Well, I mean,
You do
I
you.
worked at Disney for about a year, and then I ended up, my first job was at an ad agency in Orlando where I was a media buyer, and I knew
Okay.
absolutely nothing. But that really that experience of being in that ad agency taught me about the media playing field. So when digital happened, I was, I think, in a unique position to help car people and people who were developing digital products, our Auto Trader specifically, become an advertising sales organization instead of like, we got this widget and it puts all your cars on there. Like, people didn't know how to talk about it. Digital as advertising, and I feel like that's kind of my contribution, if there is one.
Oh no, we're going to talk about your contribution later on in the show. One of many. But I've got to ask this since you brought it up. When you remember the phase of digital dealer, there were all these presentations that came about that said, treat your customers like it's Disney World or Disneyland or whatever. Do you remember those? Did you ever go to one? And I want to know what your unfiltered thoughts are about what those presentations meant to.
Well, I did, part of the Disney, when you do an internship there, and it's probably similar, but you go through their academy, the Disney way. So it's, one of the things they do, I think one of the best out of all companies is that details. It's not just about if it's a cool park or a cool ride, it's the details. It's being in line and going through almost an entire ride on your way to the ride. It's the detail, and they're just the masters of it. So it was a really good education for me, I think, to be able to understand the details matter. It's not, you can if you don't hit on the details, you can really blow something really meaningful. So it was a really good education for me.
I know, and I'm not taking anything away from Disney, but to imagine a dealership as Disney, I'm just going to be candid. Of the hundred, no, nay, of the
I
thousands of
mean, I never
presentations,
saw them present to
I didn't
dealers. I,
go.
I don't know. I don't know if there's a good correlation there,
Yeah,
but
it wasn't the title didn't get me. It wasn't enough for me to be like, oh, okay, I got to go see this one.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I was too grounded, too grounded. Like for me, it was each month. Like, are we selling things? Are we reinventing things? What
I don't think much has changed there, Jim.
it's
People
kind
are
of
still
gotten
there.
back to the way it used to be. Is that a good
Yep.
thing? Is it a good
Zero
thing
to
or a bad thing?
hero and then back to zero
That every month reset. That's why
every
I've got
month.
these football helmets. Like it's a competitive thing. Each week you're great in football in one week, and for car dealers, I think it's like each month you're great, and then
Or not.
whoa, yeah, and then the next
Right.
month it's October, which we're in the middle of, which is
Hmm.
one of my least favorite times of the year, to be candid.
For the car
45
business or in
days.
general?
Well,
I
seasonally
love fall.
speaking, it
Okay.
falls off. I love the events and the weather,
Yeah.
and Halloween's a great holiday.
Hmm.
But as far as there being dynamics with the 45 worst days of automotive retail, we are smack dab in the middle of it.
Oh,
So, I mean, in general, clients are not very happy with,
yeah.
and not just
September
my
was a rough
clients.
month.
Yeah, but other clients are calling and saying, "Hey, could we talk about this?" And so one of the things I want to talk about with you is there's some new shiny objects. I mean, a lot of the patterns of behavior with quick change, which automotive retail is all about. They're looking for what's new, what can I do technologically that gives me an edge over somebody else. And you had
Mhm.
a lot of skill in that area. Is there anything that you're hearing about, seeing about these days that you want to talk about?
Well, the newest thing that I think is very compelling is Eric Brown, who has his background is lot links and Datium. He's a really smart guy, and he has created this product called Ask Auto, which is
Okay.
basically using AI. So if a dealer is getting leads with phone numbers, this AI, you copy it in the lead field, and the AI calls the dealer and the customer at the same time to try to connect them. And
Okay.
so where the average, I don't know what the industry average is now, but let's say you get 20 leads with phone numbers, maybe you connect with two of them after trying to call them 7 or 8 times. With this system, because it's calling the customer and the dealer at the same time, they're getting more like 8 or 9 connections. And to me, that's a real game changer because these dealers are paying for all these leads, whether it's coming through their website from their traditional advertising, whether it's, Auto Trader, anyone, or they're paying Kia Digital, whatever it happens to be. If you have the opportunity to take your ability to talk to 2 out of 20 or 8 out of 20 or 9 out of 20, and you don't have 7 or 8 outbounds to get that 8 or a 9, that's kind of, to me, that could be a game changer. That could really help a BDC get very efficient so that maybe they can help service answer the phone or whatever it happens to be, wherever they need help. So that's probably one of the most exciting things that I've seen in the recent history.
So are they talking to people or are they talking to AI, or am I
There, it's
asking too
so
much?
there's different ways that you
Okay.
can do it, but essentially it's like when like call wars or who's
Yes.
calling or whatever, it'll tell the dealer or whoever's on the phone, this is a lead from your website or whatever it is, and then the customer just connects to the salesperson. So the customer has no
Yeah.
idea. There's no AI intervention between the customer and the AI. The AI is letting the dealer know you have a lead for, and then that connects them. But it's such a big difference in connection because if it's all done in real time and they're still on their phone or sitting in front of their computer, they don't have time to think, I don't want to talk to you because you're going to try to sell me something or whatever it is that they end up thinking when you are having to call the 20 leads 7 or 8 times to
Sure.
connect to them. So, and it's good for, initially when he developed it, he just was it was on service department. So if you couldn't get a hold of service, you'd put your phone number in. It was like a service concierge and it would call you. And I thought that was kind of neat, but it really didn't change anything. It didn't necessarily mean that you were going to make more money because you still have a lack of people and the ability, service is always so busy. But now with the sales side, where you can really help connect those people right then, it could be a big game changer, I think.
Well, I see it, and I get the idea with Ford and Honda because I've worked with them, as have you before, and I don't even know if that's regionally or nationally or locally. Could be any of the above. But when I see Tesla on that list, and I see that it's actually scaling into other industries, notably the banking and financial services, that
Well, he actually did a deal with USA Today, so a lot of his data came from traditional advertising from USA Today kind of customers, not car
okay,
dealers. So
got
he
it.
was they've I would say that's probably been more of the training ground than the dealers, is being able to give an advertising company the ability to track phone calls and determine what their product, if they're sending the right kind of leads, and also it transcribes it so it'll tell you if the leads are being worked properly or if you're losing, someone's not handling the calls well. So I just think that anything that transforms, like I think, like when I look at a website, I don't think we should have forms. It would be better if people could be chatting, and I think certain website companies are trying to go that direction. Rather than a form field, you can either call or chat. I think that would probably fix a lot of problems too. But the industry is slow to adapt to those kinds of things. So
Well,
it
yeah, and
hasn't really happened yet.
we're going to talk about it in a second, but there's the idea that this is AI, so it must be something good or something I need. Do you feel like we're in a space and place and time where dealers don't know what they don't know? Like there's always that new acronym that agencies throw out there or vendors throw out there, or candidly that the factory throws out there. that,
Oh, I mean, it's been like that for the last 20 or 30 years that I've been doing this. So
yeah,
I think that there's enough smoke and mirrors on any given day for any given product to really not know. I would say a big part of my career is trying to help dealers figure out what actually is working and trying to figure out methodologies and reporting and KPIs and things that you can use that you can actually measure yourself so that somebody's not coming in and saying, look, you sold 10 cars, but you can't figure out, well, are you sure those were your 10 cars or did I already have those customers coming in? That happens so much. But I think the closer the communication can be to when the customer requires it, the better off the industry is going to be as a whole. Because someone just told me that Mazda came up with some rule that you can't answer leads until 30 minutes or later. And I thought, now that makes no sense because statistically, we were saying you had to answer the call you had to respond to the call within 15 minutes, like
yeah,
10 years ago, 5 minutes ideally. Now 30 minutes, I don't know. So it's just, so it's like everyone with AI too, because it's teachable, but everyone has some access to it, so it's probably really easy for somebody to start a company using AI that may or may not do what they say it's supposed to do.
yeah.
But anyway,
Well,
I just think if the closer the customer and the dealer can get to when the customer requests the information, the better off the industry will be.
so what do you think, and that's one of the things that you've known that is working. I'm going to check it out, find out more about it, encourage people to do their own research. This is not financial advice or not. I say this all the
No.
time, like do your own research. Like just because it's on a show, find out if it works for your make, your model, your market, and then you can know. Like don't just go buy the AI because it says AI inside or because you're
Right.
talking to reputable people who've been doing it for 20 plus years each. I'm not saying that, but it's what you don't know that you don't know in automotive retail that can get you in a lot of trouble, especially as a general manager. And so one of my guiding principles these days, tell me if you agree or disagree, is you want to spend 50 hours with ChatGPT because then you understand what command prompts are about. And if you don't understand what command prompts are about in AI, you don't know what the potential is and how it can apply to what it is that you're trying to do. Because I know this, customers trust their phones and ChatGPT is becoming more trustworthy than their phones. And I made a big bet 15 years ago that the phones were going to be the center of the marketing universe. And I'm here to
Mm-hmm.
tell you, I hope I'm around for it. But the next center of the marketing universe is going to be these ChatGPTs.
Mm-hmm.
That's my balance. What's yours?
Well,
No calls in.
I get a little concerned about that because like my daughter, my youngest just turned 18. And so, one day she came in and she said, I got to get this product for my face. I'm breaking out really bad. And I said, well, what do you think you should do? And she said, well, ChatGPT said, and I said, ChatGPT said what? Did you go research the product yourself after you looked at what ChatGPT said? She said, no, I went on Reddit. And so one of the concerns I have about AI, just not in its ability to help streamline things or whatever, is the fact that it gets people further away from communicating with each other and looking up information on their own. And so while that may be true, that the better you understand it, the better you understand how you can use it. I just get a little bit concerned because I would rather see, like, what I liked about Ask Auto is that the dealer's talking to the customer, not AI. I hate that we're getting so far away from customer interactions, and AI is really helping make that so. And I feel like for a purchase of this size, I'm not sure that's the direction I would go. It's not that you can't
Oh,
use
I'm
it to
going.
prompt
You
or
can't stop me. You can't help. You can't help to
well, I'm just
contain me.
saying not completely where you lose the interaction between the people.
Oh
Not
no, it
that it's
ultimately gets back to people. I believe that. But in terms of being
yeah.
a catalyst for the conversation, for the choosing, for the filtering process. So I'm like, if you're down at shopping and buying, I'm different in store, in person. But in the consideration phase, you're getting eliminated if you don't know how that stuff works. Because they're asking it, hey, what should I buy? Hey, what are the pros and cons of working with this dealership? It's like Google
Mhm.
search at the beginning, except this is 2025 version.
Yeah, and it's got a lot of data to pull from, that's for sure. And it's a lot easier than you trying to get it yourself.
Yeah. So when you start doing this on smaller items, it then starts to cascade into bigger items. And I think it's inevitable. Remember when Facebook, we're trying to figure out if we should advertise or does Google really help?
Mm-hmm.
Well, once you reach scale, and right now the monthly active users for ChatGPT, which I use loosely because that includes all the language learning models, is about 22%. Do you remember when we were about 22% of Facebook? Do you remember when we were at 22% mobile traffic to dealer websites? And
Mm-hmm.
then what? And then automotive's late. But when they're late, it's like a huge wave that just cascades over and engulfs all at once.
Mm-hmm.
50%, once you get past 50%, I think that's like there's something in the car dealer handbook. When the monthly active users gets greater than 50%, I am in and I am playing. And so I know those platforms eventually are going to advertise, just like Google did, just like Facebook, just like Amazon Prime, just like Netflix. Tell me one that
Mm-hmm.
hasn't advertised, please. You tell me.
Well, and to your point, if you have the ability to use AI on your website so that instead of me filling out a lead form, I can have I can ask my questions. If it's in a chat form, people aren't as they're not as likely to know it's AI, and it's a safer, but that AI can be doing a lot of the question answering for you, so that by the time you want to make that phone call, you can actually talk to a human being. So it's always been since I'm not a former dealer and haven't worked in one, this is just how I see it. I've always seen it like the BDC and the sales department should be one and the same, with the exception of service. Like you should have people that are smart enough and know enough to be able to talk on the phone, email, and work in the showroom, that are educated about your product and they're paid to know what they're talking about, and that everything that you do with your website and your phone and everything is about bringing the customer and the dealership together. How you use AI to do that is certainly going to be up for grabs, but I know that like 5 years ago they were talking about getting rid of lead forms and just having chat boxes. I think that's the direction it's going. And I
Okay.
think at some point that when instead of lead forms, it's going to be you're going to either be able to call somebody or have them call you, or you're going to be able to chat with somebody and get the information you want right then. And I think that will help the customer and the dealer, because there's such a gap between the fact that people do want to buy cars, but they don't like the process they have to go through to do it. And so anything that we can do technologically that helps remove that friction, that's what Eric Brown calls it. If somebody can connect with a customer right when they submit the lead, then you don't have the friction that's involved with trying to call someone 7 or 8 times to try to see if they'll pick up the phone. They wanted that information then, but maybe they don't want it now because they don't want to deal with you. So that's why I feel like this is, that if the more we can use AI to do that, where it bridges some of those gaps, but still connects the customer to people, I think the better off the industry will be.
Yeah, to zoom out, you're saying the right things at the right time matter
Right.
most, right? If you do the wrong thing at the right wait, if you do the
If you do the
wrong
wrong thing
thing,
at the wrong time,
that's definitely the wrong thing.
that is
But if
definitely the
you
wrong
what if you
thing.
do the right thing at the wrong time? It's
Well,
still
and there is that
it's
with
still the
AI
wrong
too.
thing. I
The
mean, it
AI,
is.
the AI can do that too. Someone was telling me a story where an AI was asking a question, and it said something like she said something like, "I'm upside down in my trade," and the AI was like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay? Are you in a safe place? Do you need me to call anybody?" So there's
911?
yeah,
Yeah.
so there's going to be a little bit of that in this transition, because the AI does need to be taught in order to be effective.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some of that, but I did think that was kind of funny.
That's pretty good.
I thought
Another
it
pretty
was.
good thing that I found, I did some other show notes. We're going to see if we can get back in the game here with you. There's an interview. You've done a few pods through the days. And do you remember Lisa Copeland? I think she's from Texas, if not
Yeah, I've heard
Austin.
of her. Yep.
Yeah, she's pretty
Mm-hmm.
pretty popular, pretty important. She brought up, well, I probably should play the clip, how you created a movement. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about foundationally what you did to establish women in automotive. But at first, I want the audience to hear this clip. Okay?
You started a movement. How does that make you feel? What sense of responsibility do you have, or do you feel upon yourself because of this movement that you started?
I mean, I don't feel necessarily responsible so much, but I do have a passion for protecting the industry. And when you look at some of the disruptors that are happening and, Amazon and some of these things that really threaten the basis of the franchise system, I feel compelled to keep my job by saying, hey, everyone, let's look at what's happening in this industry, and let's not wait for things to happen to it. Let's be proactive and figure out how we can move along with these disruptors and these changes and preserve what has been, up until this point, a pretty good system. But when you match,
So up until this point, what has been a pretty good system? Are we still in the same system? Are there still disruptors? Is Amazon still waiting? Is AI still waiting? The internet was going to disrupt everything. Digital retailing was going to disrupt everything.
well, when we made that was kind of when it looked like some of those things were going to replace everyone tries to replace the franchise model, and Amazon was, it's like the old Ford Direct. Everyone was around for that. And so, whether or not they think, or some big company thinks they can sell better than a dealer, I think Ford Direct proved that that's not really the case. That you can say that, but in reality, it's the deal. And not only that, but dealers are the cornerstone in most of their communities. They contribute a lot to charities. They provide jobs for people. It's no small chunk of the American economy that we're talking about here. So in that situation where Amazon looked like it was trying to go around the dealers, that's why I made that statement. Like, we need to preserve what the system is and try to make it better, because it's not going to, I don't believe it would be better if they went the Ford Direct way. I don't think that makes anything better for the
Well,
customer or the community.
the one that seems like they found a way is Tesla. To be fair, I don't love that. I don't have a problem with it. I recognize it for what it is, but they've set up a network without dealers. I don't know how it got through with a lot of the strong laws that motor vehicle commissions have. Any thoughts on that? Because I'm with you on Ford Direct. Like the traditional OEM certainly didn't have the ability to figure that one out, but Elon somehow got that done.
Yeah,
And I'm not an Elon
circumvented it.
fanboy or any of that, but it's a wild one.
Yeah, I can't really. Still though, Tesla is a dealer, and they still, contribute to the community too. It's not as big, and it's not to the level that like a big Toyota or Ford store has. But
Yeah.
that's how I look at it. It's one thing to look at. I look at it from the consumer side, and that's why I feel passionately about products like that, where you can help connect the customer to the dealer. I'm passionate about helping the dealers do better with their customers, because I do feel like after 30 years of doing this, we're not a whole lot further ahead than we were when I started doing this. And that's really frustrating, because I feel like that was my whole motive, was to try to help make the industry better and better received. But
So with women in automotive, then specifically, how do you
yes,
feel like the progress went on that front? So you're talking about the ecosystem in general with dealers and whatnot, but
right.
specifically to the initiative that you started a movement at a time when that was a pretty big deal. You're typically a couple steps ahead, almost this entrepreneurial spirit. I don't know
It's
what
definitely
drives you or
that.
pushes you or pulls you, but it's clearly there. I've seen it before with digital. I see it now with AI. And so there's Lisa Copeland talking about with you. She's seeing it too, and she's very good at seeing people. How do you feel like that took off? Because it's still going. It's always a great honor to start something that continues on
Yes,
off your
that is a
legacy
very
since you've
yes.
left.
You have a legacy.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't just me. There were a group of women. It was Jody DeVere, who
Okay.
at the time was running another women's organization that had been around for 20 or 30 years. And so anyway, we sat down, and I just, for me, it was about empowering women, about being in control of their careers, not letting your boss, not letting whatever stop you from what it is that you want to achieve in your career. I got some advice a long time ago from an HR lady when I don't know, I think I had a bad review for something I didn't feel it was justified. And I remember her saying to me,
Hold on. I gotta slow you down there. Let's unpack
well,
that. You brought this up.
that's a whole story. It was at
All
the
right.
Orlando Sentinel, and
All right.
it was actually a really cool thing that I did when I was there, but I was not happy with the way that it was portrayed. And I had gone, and this lady was my friend, and she was our HR lady, and she said, if you want to get in shape, you have to go exercise. If you want to have a good relationship, you have to work on that. Since when is it that we just go to our jobs and we don't have that same responsibility. If it's your career and it's your life, you're the only one that can really determine the outcome of that. You
Okay.
can let other people make it for you. So the premise behind Women in Automotive was to give women a place to go to get educated and empowered and courage so that they could be in control of their careers rather than whoever it is they felt were holding them back. And so to that end, the first year we did it, there was a girl that she was a service advisor at a Mazda store, or no, service advisor at a Honda store. She came and she put what she had learned into practice. And the next year, we gave an award for the most improved player because she ended up getting promoted to be the service director at a Mazda store. And it was just because she'd come to this event. And so when we first started it, it seemed fun. Like, let's do this. Maybe it'll be fun. And it wasn't until then that I realized, well, wait a minute, we can really help change some lives here and also change dealerships because dealerships can get more stronger, more empowered women into these roles where they're not just being dictated to, they can actually contribute and help move the dealership along or wherever it is they happen to be. So that was the principle behind it. And I'm thrilled to see it still going because it's important. It's important.
No, it's huge. And I want you to know we're going to make a small donation on behalf of all car dealers to the organization that you started. And just to say thank you and just to recognize how important it is and to say we appreciate you for what you started. I mean, you started something big and it needs to keep going and keep growing. But I think, when you look, there's almost this generational dynamic too, because as a next generation moves in, I know that I didn't necessarily grow up thinking I wanted to be in automotive. I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people
but
had that on their radar
but I
screens.
was Gen X and I was told to go play out. Love my parents, but go outside, play outside. All of us
Right.
were until the lights came down, and then you come back home. There was none of this helicopter stuff, and so there is now more of a work-life balance going on for this younger generation, male or female. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think the issues that we may have thought were one side or the other side of the aisle aren't really that anymore. They're kind of universal in terms of what's keeping people out of the automotive ecosystem. You're keenly aware of that.
Well, yes. And so, for my own self, for my own employees, I ran a company where my focus was always on you doing your job. I didn't need people sitting there getting paid because they didn't have anything to do. I mean, I had an employee that her mom ended up getting brain cancer, and for about a year, she was
Mm.
working in the hospital while her mom was going through these treatments. So it was, or maybe it was 6 months, but it wasn't easy. But what I found is when I gave her that space, I had an employee that I ended up having for 16 years.
Wow.
And I had another employee who had a baby, and so she would work from home while she was taking care of the baby. So it was trying to. I personally believe that if you work your life around your life might not be as good as if you can work your job around your life, or if it's equal. There's equal play. And
Yeah.
so in my experience, I find that the more you can empower people to do what they're paid to do and not get in their way, and then give them the freedom to have their lives, because if they can't do what's in their life, they're not going to be very good to you when you're trying to get stuff done. That seems to be a good model for me. And the car business, working 6 or 7 days a week and bell to bell, and so that's a tough schedule. And I don't
Mm.
think I don't really see the next. I have 4 kids. I don't see any one of them. Although my son is a service director, he does work a lot of hours. I don't see a lot of people at that age range wanting to step into that, and that's part of why I think the transitions where you can connect the dealer to people, make that as efficient as possible so they don't need as many people and they can get better people, is going to be it's a timely time to be having this conversation because of the fact that it's going to be tough to get young people to put up with that. They'd rather go sit in their parents' basement. At least my kids do.
Well, part of it too, what this generation behind us, which call it millennials and Z, have going for them, they know they are the brand. See, they've grown up, like it was important for me to work for Nike or to work for Toyota or a big company because that was how you would be identified for the rest of your
Mm-hmm.
career. Well, now it's your digital footprint, fingerprint, however you want to say it, with all the posts that you make on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or on X or wherever it is that you may be. And so they quickly, and especially with like college athletes with NIL and social influencers, in terms of they are actually at an earlier age getting paid bigger bucks because they're able to influence other people in their purchase decisions in a different direction than if you were, say, selling cars.
Mm-hmm.
And with that consequence opens up a whole Pandora's box of, I think we have a generation behind us that relates very, very closely to their phones. You could argue most people trust their phones more than they trust people. And then like I said, I'm going one step further. I'm pushing all in, ante up. If you want to play some poker, this is Texas Hold'em. People are going to do the exact same thing with the LLMs. They're going to be on their phone. And when I say LLM, it is not an acronym that I'm trying to confuse everybody with. It's a language learning model. And the simplest ones are Gemini with Google. There's Grok, which is from Elon and X. And then you basically have ChatGPT. The euphemism, like when you say Google something, it means any kind of search. The euphemism right now is ChatGPT. So when I talk to dealers, I try to keep it simple and directional and say, okay, ChatGPT, try it. Have you tried it? And if they haven't tried it, we're at that 22% range. It's time to get in the game. It just is. Because let me ask you, take your gamble. What year, what month do you think they'll be advertising on ChatGPT? There's no right answer. I'm not going to be right or wrong.
Oh, I mean, I don't see why it couldn't, if they could figure out where to put the ads. I mean, honestly, it could be embedded. I would say in the next year. It's just a matter of figuring out where to put it. Is it's going to be, so if I'm looking up a Honda Accord, a 2025, how can I embed a dealer into that information so that if I've gotten the information and I'm interested in taking it to another step, there's something there. It's just a matter of them figuring out how to do it. So I would say within the year.
Wow. That's bold. But you're
Well,
bold.
I mean,
You're
it's
bold.
it's I don't think it would be hard to do.
I think they probably already can.
Yeah.
I think they're waiting to gather information, or there isn't a revenue issue. Like I don't think Netflix actually added advertising until the revenue started to plateau. They're like, well, we probably need some more growth. We've been saving this one. So here we are. We're going to play this card and do this deal now, right? 10, 11 years into the mission. And same thing with Facebook, right? They've been running for 4 or 5 years before they finally said, okay, we're going to advertise. Same principle, same mindset. What do you see you doing 12 to 24 months from now? Are you excited about anything in particular, a direction, that entrepreneurial spirit I'm trying to see where Christy?
I mean, for me, it's always been, well, not always, but right now, I feel like anything transformational that can help make the process better for the customer. I focus on the customer because I feel like that's the one thing a lot of times in the car business, they kind of go, it's not that we don't care about them, but we don't really, we don't really care about them. And so just trying to bridge that gap, whether it's through a product like Ask Auto, or there's a product called Vehicle Life that's an AI sort of auto alert, those types of things where it's kind of streamlining the information, and it's also streamlining the way people get the information, so it's not all on the dealer and how they've trained their people. It's more now you can share it with this AI because the AI has the knowledge. If you've seen how people get trained in a dealership, the AI is for sure going to know more than the salesperson is. So being able to leverage those things so that you do connect with it, I think that's going to help you with your customer too. So I do see ChatGPT. There's another technology on televisions where if you could be watching a show, you're streaming a show, and you see a Honda, and on the Honda, you're maybe you're watching Apple TV. There's a link if you want to click and go to the dealer.
Yeah.
There's some really compelling interactive stuff like that can happen in the middle of a show. So
Okay.
I think there's some really compelling advertising that could come out of this. It's going to be a little bit less about banners and buttons and more about, information to the customer and then connection to the vendor that can provide what that customer's searching. I think that the AI is definitely helping to bridge that gap in a much more efficient way than anything else we've seen, at least in my lifetime.
Yeah, I told, one of the things I'm really thankful for is the internet, because I didn't have it when I was born and now we do. And so it's just like, wow, this thing is still amazing to me, all that it affords us the opportunity to do. And I think that this generation, because of where we are, it must have been, I don't know when the calculator was invented, but I should check that out. Like accountants must have loved that. Or when spreadsheets like Lotus 123 or Microsoft Excel came about, like those were absolute game changers. And I just know, just like the phone was, the iPhone.
And for me, Auto Trader was like that. Auto
Okay.
Trader, I came from, newspaper and ad agency,
Oh,
and
yeah.
to be able to put all your cars on a website with all your pictures and have all the details for, like, at the
Yeah.
time it was like $400 a month, and I was, it was $30,000 to run one newspaper ad in the paper. Then that was in Orlando, so I can, New York
Well,
probably more
cool.
like 100 grand.
So hold on.
So,
Are you pretty good with numbers?
like in my head, or what? I think
I
so.
don't know. I've seen you present, so you seem to know number. You're good with people. Like I'm going to give you that. Good with
Well, I don't know
movements.
about that.
That's what
That's
people
nice
say.
of you to say, though.
I'm just saying, but are you reasonably good with numbers or not? Because
I
I'm going to
think
ask.
so.
Okay, so as you look ahead, you're planning your budget as a dealer or even as a media buyer, because that's what you said you did. You've got to put in your back pocket some percentage of your total budget for this AI craziness out there. You don't even know what you don't know. Let's say you don't know what you don't know, but you're in charge of it, the GM. What do you put? What number as a
Well,
percentage of the total?
mm, well, since so many things are going to incorporate AI that you already have, some of that you're not going to have to do yourself because the vendors are going to do it for you.
Fair enough.
But for if, like, for example, if you wanted to use it as a training for your own salespeople, which that should be part of your budget anyway, I would say at least probably 10-15%, because
Okay.
whether you use it as advertising or if you use it as a training tool, both are beneficial.
Yeah, my take on it was around 10 to 15. I'm going to say the same number, not to be agreeable, because I'll disagree with you if I need to. And you would do the same with me. But I think it's one of those things you put on the table. So you got a mindset for it in your plan for 2026. And then if for some reason it's not there yet, don't force it. You don't have to spend it. Just drop it to the bottom line or allocate it to another resource that you find is providing you with better traction. And then you look and okay, January and February are over. What does March look like? It's spring selling season. Is now a good time to kind of investigate where this is, and I'm ready to go. Oh, Christy predicted that this stuff was going to go live in 2026. Turns out it's the third quarter. They're going to start advertising in August. That's a pretty big sales month. And I've had this money that I've been allocating. And this month, I'm actually going to apply it to a place that's going to cut in front of all the other dealers in town. I mean, dealers love playing and winning a game that others don't even
Mm-hmm.
know exist. This is an opportunity like that.
Exclusivity, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. And usually when things like that start, that's how they start, is through exclusivity, because that's the way you can command a higher dollar, but also you can learn from the people that sign up first. So you can figure out, I always call it, like, what's your real business model? Sometimes you don't know until you get out there and do it. We can write spreadsheets all we want, but until you get out in the market and try to see what the market thinks, you don't really always know where you're going to end up. And I think that's where it is with ChatGPT. If they figure out how to integrate that, and somebody can research, and all the Honda searches in a market could be driven to one dealer, I think a lot of dealers would be chomping at the bit to figure out how to get there.
All right. And I'm gonna end the pod in a place that's gonna connect this podcast that I do for automotive retailers with another podcast that I do, which is typically blockchain and cryptocurrency and all those elements. When do you think automotive retail is going to get connected to transactionally allowing things like Bitcoin to be a part of the purchase process? Do you think it, like you said, the market is a real tough judge, and a few dealers that offered it years ago, I don't think it's gained any much small traction. When do you think it becomes that thing that reaches that 22% that I keep talking about, then goes to 50 and everybody has it after that? Is that
If
further
they
out?
try to move us to central bank digital currency, that's when I think that'll happen. If they're really going to move us to that, which I hope they don't, but if they are,
Yeah.
it's going to be the Bitcoins and the other types of currencies, and it may end up being something outside of blockchain, but whatever it is that can keep people in control of their own money, that's when I think people are going to have to really. I mean, if it was me, I'd say you better be looking at this now, because they're really trying to get the CBDCs. Europe's already there. And that's a control mechanism. And I don't know. I don't like control like that. I would like to know that, like Vietnam, 80 million people got their money shut off 2 weeks ago for not going along with the biometric surveillance. And so that's where I think people need to be looking at these other currencies, and try. The quicker we can decentralize off of the currency that we have, the harder it's going to be for them to enforce a model like that. So what I'm saying is all dealers should be looking at it now and not waiting until they say, all right, everyone, no more cash.
Oh,
So
yeah. Get,
yeah.
I remember when my uncle started moving out to a ranch and started housing gold bullions.
Yeah. Not a
And
bad thing to do. You should $4,000 an ounce. I think gold is
and
probably not a bad place to
and
be.
maybe I relate to that now. I don't know. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, and maybe a little cash to keep it hanging around. Like, I'm just saying, it could be an idea. I'm not financial advice. Do your
Well,
own
the
research.
reality is Bitcoin is just
Yeah,
one mechanism that can be used to decentralize the currency. And I am a person who would like to see that happen. I don't want I would be real disappointed if America goes that direction, but it might.
it might. Christy, what a great answer. We've had a great time with you on the show. Thank you for answering all the questions. Whichever happens first, like Bitcoin becomes more mainstream in terms of transactional elements in the dealership, or AI advertising comes into play, we'll have you back on the show, dive deeper in. We'll probably bring up some of the tape from this episode and see how accurate those predictions were. What do you say?
That sounds good to me. Thank you
Uh,
for having me. I appreciate it.
all right. You're awesome and have a great day. Thanks, Christy.
You too. Have a good weekend.